related to the Jamia Millia Islamia clashes on Tuesday while issuing a stern warning to ask students to stop the riots. Now, citing destruction of property amid Anti-Citizenship Amendment Act protests in the national capital, Chief Justice of India S.A. Bobde said if violence and destruction of public property continues, we will not hear the matter. The development comes as several pleas have been filed after a violent clash between Delhi police and the Jamia students on Sunday. Pleas on similar clashes in Aligarh Muslim University will also be heard by the Supreme Court on Tuesday. Meanwhile, protests were carried out in several places in West Bengal and Assam as well. At least 5 trains and 3 railway stations were torched in West Bengal. Similar scenes were witnessed in Assam as well. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze what the law says about damaging public property and protesting, and what is the SOP that the police follows in cases such as this. Joining me on the program today are Dr. Rajiv Nanda, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, Anil Chaudhary, former Secretary, Internal Security, Ministry of Home Affairs, and Sipal Singh, former Inspector General, Punjab Police. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Mr. Singh, let me begin the program with you. Let's first try and understand what is the SOP really as far as the police is concerned when dealing with protests, rioting and incidents of the likes that we've seen in Delhi and across the country. Mr. Singh, if you can hear me. Okay, I think we'll re-establish that line with Mr. Sipal Singh. In the meantime, let me go across to Mr. Anil Chaudhary. Mr. Chaudhary, situations like this, when it happens, what is it that the Home Ministry does? What is it that happens really as far as tackling with situations and dealing with issues like this? When the police or the establishment is dealing with students, do they deal with it separately, differently, or not?
Thank you, Frank. I have been an internal security man, and I have grappled with problems like this in the Kashmir Valley, in Assam, in UP, in Delhi, in many places. I will speak strictly from the angle of the duty of the police. A big no to destruction of property, big no. A big yes to the right to protest. That is where the law stands. And then you see what happens is when people start indulging in vandalism and mob violence takes place, the riffraffs take advantage. They do not know, the police do not know who are pelting stones at them, whether the students or it is the local riffraffs. So they start with the minimum force, which is a lathi charge below the waist on the legs. Then you switch to a tear smoke shelling, and then you switch it to further like that. So it is, but there is no point. Yes, protest very much, shout slogans, banners, display them, raise your voice, but destruction of public properties, you're destroying your own property. You're burning buses will carry kids to school tomorrow, your own kids, and your own fire brigade thing, whatever trucks, things are there. It makes just no sense to me. Whether it is students or whether it is anybody, the law makes no distinction.
Okay, all right, Mr. Sipal Singh, what is the SOP that the police follows in situations like this?
You see, one point is very clear. Dissent and democracy, they go side by side. Such situations do arise. And in such situation, it is a question of that this situation, when such dissent takes place, such protest takes place, such agitations take place, such demonstration takes place, then what the police is to do? Now, as you know that fundamental rights provide this sort of dissent, but there are restrictions. As very well known, in the case of Supreme Court, one judgment was there when it happened in the case of Baba Ramdev's agitation somewhere in 2011. Now, the police there was using power which was beyond its requirement. At night they were sleeping, and at sleep you go and bounce upon them and impose Article 144 and restrict their right to demonstrate. In this present case, this is a totally different state affair. They were there, the agitated mob was violating certain basic points of law, certain basic legal provisions. They have been asked to disperse, and dispersal is not being complied with. On the other hand, they become much more agitated and they start pelting stones at the police. There is obviously no other way. When Section 144 also has been imposed, there was no other way for the police but to use force. The question of use of force is there. How much force should have been used? This is a discretion now. This discretion has to be exercised in a very, very judicial manner.
Okay.
On one side, there's a right to dissent, there's a right to demonstrate, but the right is only to dissent and demonstrate peacefully. Now, if the peaceful demonstration turns into violence, then the exercise is done by the police under Section 144, and dispersal is not done. Now the question is discretion of the police. How much force should be used? Now that is to be decided by the police officers on the spot. Sitting on the camera, watching on the TV, you cannot very correctly judge the situation. And I feel in such circumstances, the police had to resort to force. And I am of the view that whatever has been done was a minimum use of force. There was not such a strong use of force as to today resent that why it has not been allowed. This is my opinion.
Okay, all right. Let's get a legal opinion in as well on the program and find out from Dr. Rajiv Nanda. You know, as far as the law is concerned, what does it say about protesting and what does it say about destruction of property?
As far as the law is concerned, we have a fundamental right to demonstrate, to form association in a peaceful manner. But the Constitution guarantees nothing in an absolute way, like the fundamental right to form association, to demonstrate, to make representations in a collective manner doesn't come without the riders. All of these are subject to reasonable restrictions. There are various judgments, I don't need to quote them. The law stands as today is that you have to be reasonable while demonstrating, you have to be reasonable while making representations. You can shout slogans the way you want. You can raise your voice to the extent you want. There are certain ways where you have to seek permissions. There are certain manners in which you have to seek permissions. Like in Delhi, you have to have permission from the police before making any kind of demonstration. There is a place fixed. Earlier it was Jantar Mantar. Now people anywhere and everywhere they start demonstrating, but police does exercise restraint in not using force on them, and reasonable force is used. Now comes regarding the law on destruction part of it. There is already a law in 1984, Prevention of Public Property Destruction Act, which says that in case of destruction by people in such a manner where the buses are put to, or any property for that matter is put on blaze, destroyed, or anything, any kind of destruction is done, then there is a provision for imprisonment up to 5 years. Now in 2015, very recently, there was an attempt by the government of India to bring changes in it, the amendments. But I understand that things have not yet materialized to the extent they should have. The government wanted that the market value of the destructed property should be recovered from the persons who have been identified as destroyers. Like we about 2 years ago, we saw one of these Dera chief in Chandigarh who was arrested from Sirsa. He was brought to Panchkula courts and there was large scale violence, large scale of destruction of public property, private properties. So there the Punjab and Haryana High Court took a very stern view. They said that you have to pay for this, all this. All this will not be tolerated. Here in Delhi also, I see, talking about the Jamia incident, all of us are witnessing the burning of buses. Buses are public property. They are made from the public money, taxpayers' money. We are a developing country. We, as it is, are falling short of funds.
If we are destroying this kind of property, you are liable to pay. The law governs you. 84 law still is in vogue. If you are held guilty, identified, you will be tried. As I said, there is nothing which comes absolute. You have a right of representation demonstrating everything, but then with reasonable restrictions.
Okay, all right. So what do you do then going forward, Mr. Chaudhary, in a difficult situation? Let's move away from Delhi. Let's talk about now the situation in West Bengal, say for instance, or in Assam. You know, where the state government is carrying out its own protests, you know, and then, you know, others are getting moved by it. So how do you react? How does the government in the center deal with a situation like that? Because at the end of the day, security is also undertaken by the states.
Frank, irrespective of the place, the duties of the police remains the same. It is governed by an act. See, very rightly put by my learned fellow panelist, you have a right to demonstrate, you have a right, a peaceful demonstration, sure. Go ahead, but you cannot obstruct normal life. You cannot block traffic. People are going to work, kids are going to school. You cannot do that. You cannot start destroying your own property out of rage. All right, you have a right to be heard. You make yourself be heard in a peaceful manner. The police task is very tough, because they are under the state government, the law is the central government, and then what do? What is the stand of the state? The police gets the meat between the sandwich, you know. So you have to face stones, don't lathi charge, all right. How much? You wear armor, all right. Then the people start hurling petrol bombs, and it has happened all over, especially if you're talking West Bengal, the experts at this. Jui lagai dibo, you know, and all that. They had burning down things. They've seen violence at its peak during the Naxal movement. In Assam, it's different. They are more peaceful, by and large, than the people that we are talking about in the Punjab or in Kashmir and all that. They also have a right to protest. You see, the driving force here, unfortunate part is, it is the students who have taken that. It's always youth. You know, their blood starts to boil faster, and they are affected most. Employment, they're waiting to get to work, and if they find people coming and taking away their job, they are the ones who come in the forefront. And there, you see, I don't think there is any law or rule which prevents the police from entering into any educational premises. If the law is being broken, if the stones are being hurled, bombs are being hurled, the police can enter. They do not need any permission from the principal or whoever. That's to the best of my knowledge and belief. I may be wrong. There may be some laws to that effect, and I'm subject to correction on that. But I do not know. But that is my view. There is no way you can allow the public, whoever they might be, to destroy property or to disrupt life, normal life, and indulge in vandalism.
Okay. So a lot is being made about, you know, the police entering the library, say for instance in Jamia, or entering the campus and, you know, pulling out students and so on and so forth. All this is, of course, reported widely in the media. Is there anything that prevents the police from entering a university campus or a library or a hostel, Rajiv Nanda?
There is nothing which prevents the police or any security agency who is in charge of maintaining the law and order in that particular area from not entering the university or any educational institutions for that matter. It is only a courtesy which has developed into a practice over a period of time that police does take permission from the vice chancellor or the principal. But if there is time, there is something called hot pursuit. If in the hot pursuit, the police finds that they are chasing the ones who are entering the premises of a particular institution here, the Jamia library, they certainly have all the rights to enter. I was watching all these things. It was like first you commit a crime and then you say that, look, I have been beaten black and blue by police entering. This is something, what are you claiming and what are you talking about? What rights do you have once you have provenly damaged a public property and then you can't take a shelter in the library? I saw somebody who was trying to incite, I heard that on the television, that somebody was saying that we were offering prayers in the particular religious structure. I mean, what is this? You want to take shelter and then say that police can't enter? No, I'm sorry. There is no law preventing the police or the authorities for that matter who are responsible for maintaining the law and order. They can enter anywhere and everywhere. They don't need any permission for that.
Okay, so what about the innocent bystanders? For those who have broken the law, of course, action should be taken against them. But what about the innocent bystanders?
Innocent bystanders are the victims by these protesters. They were the ones who were pelting stones. They were the ones who have put the buses on blaze. They were the ones. I myself was caught in jam near this Jamia Millia University day before yesterday, and I have a first-hand account. I was petrified. I didn't know where to go. I was surrounded by these students. My car was surrounded, and I didn't know whether I will survive or I will not survive. I was a bystander myself.
Okay.
If one of the stones did come and hit my car, but then with the grace of God, I could manage to get out of that place. If I was hit, I was certainly a victim of the crowd, not by the police. Police certainly was not saying anything to the bystanders.
Okay.
They were only tear gas shells were being thrown, and lathi charge below the belt was being used by the police just to disperse and control. You can't expect the police to be a silent and mute spectator.
Okay, all right, Mr. Sipal Singh, I'm just going to come to you in just a minute. Mr. Chaudhary wanted to add something. Go ahead.
Your point you raised about innocent bystanders. When there is violence taking place, no peaceful citizen will be there. They will scoot, they will try to get away. So the people who are standing are people who are most likely to indulge in vandalism, who are not students. Talking of Jamia Millia, it's surrounded by areas we very well know, where they reside people who have criminal backgrounds and things like that. They will take advantage of this. The second point I want to make is how much force, when to use. It is left to the decision of the senior most officer present at the spot.
Right.
Nobody sitting in wherever can decide. He has to decide how much force to be used, when it is to be used. The man on the spot, on the ground, takes that decision. If there's a magistrate, excellent. If there's no magistrate, the senior most police officer.
Absolutely. That's something that I wanted to take up with Mr. Sipal Singh as well. Mr. Sipal Singh, so who decides how much power is required to be used, what force is required to be used, who takes the final call really on the ground? And is there at some level that the senior most police officer who is present there, who then follows up on the phone, maybe with his higher up or his senior sitting somewhere else, and checks before some kind of action is taken?
No, this point can be taken from 3 points. Three points I'd like to. First of all, the question was entry, whether the police can enter or cannot enter into an institution. There is no law which prohibits the police not to enter if the offense is being committed. You see, we have entered even into the sanctum sanctorum when there was some cognizable offenses being committed. What to talk of an institution? Though one should try to avoid getting into an institution, but there is no law which stops the police to get into an institution if some offense is being committed inside. So first point is the entry cannot be denied to the police if police feels by its judgment that, and by virtue of the finding there that the property is being damaged, they certainly can enter. This is one point. Second question is who should decide inside at that particular crowd as to whether the crowd is to what type of force should be used, how much force should be used. As per law, it rests with the sub-inspector, as per law. Higher functionaries get all their jurisdiction under the law from the SHO onward. So therefore, even the subordinate officer of the rank of a sub-inspector can certainly give orders for dispersal, give orders for use of force. Third, how much force should be used? Now, in the case of such mobs, such crowds, such demonstrations, what happens is there is a sort of spiral circulation going on. One chap incites, the second chap gets incited, third chap joins it, and then the crowd mentality is formed and the crowd becomes violent. Here is the distinction. When we are finding that this sort of mentality is going to come, crowd is getting to this sort of one to other, and that is united mind, they call it. that one united mind forms, the crowd forms one mind to destroy or to disobey, at that point of time, you have certainly to act to break this mind. Otherwise, the damage will be much more. So therefore, the discretion lies with that police officer who is present at a spot when he is controlling the mob. How much force is to be used? The law says the minimum force should be used. Now, what is the level of minimum force? At one particular situation, the minimum force may be only water cannon. At a second point of view, I would like to submit most emphatically. At a second point of view, the minimum force may be even firing. Supposing there is a firing from the other side, supposing the injuries are being caused, there may not be a question of first use cannon, water cannon, then use lathi charge, then use tear smoke, and then use fire. No. The minimum force is according to the situation which has developed there. So, according to me, whosoever was present there, it is his duty to find out as to what is the determination going on, how the crowd is behaving, and at what stage you should interfere. But, as I said in the first part of my bite,
Right.
it should not provide the police that they should go on using this decision as a sort of curb the right of the demonstration. The peaceful demonstration or the demonstration by virtue of some dissent with some people, that should not be curbed. I mean, that is, you are using the police as a coercive element of the state.
Okay.
By using this, all right, you demonstrate, why are the demonstration? They are behaving like that, they are behaving like this. So this is it. Question is, the presence of the police there is meant that no unlawful activity is indulged, and in case they have issued orders under article, under clause 144, that has to be complied, that have got to be complied by that. This is my submission.
Okay, all right. So let's take the discussion forward now. So, Rajiv Nanda, as far as the Supreme Court is concerned, it came out with a set of guidelines on October 1st, 2018, really to curb arson, destruction of public and private property, and so during political agitations, So this was something that the Supreme Court has observed. So as far as arson, as far as destruction of public property is concerned, how serious a matter do you think it's going to be as far as the Supreme Court is concerned? Because this particular issue is going to come up before the Apex Court on Tuesday.
See, the Supreme Court is very much serious about it. If you look at what the Honorable Chief Justice of India has said today, that they will not hear the matter if the arson doesn't stop. You can't have the cake and eat it too. Supreme Court had issued guidelines in 2018. It is called casus amicus, like where the law is not there, the Supreme Court can always fill the blank till the law is made for that matter, which is the domain of the legislature, and to promulgate that is the domain of the executive. Till the law is not made by the legislature and not promulgated by the, not implemented by the executive, Supreme Court can always issue guidelines, and they are in vogue today. Supreme Court is very much serious about it, and no kind of vandalism will be tolerated. I'm telling you, if this kind of things continues, I'm sure Supreme Court will decline to hear any kind of plea by the Jamia Millia or the other universities which are coming up. Nothing will be heard by them in case the arson. Today I'm told that the Jamia Millia Students Association said that today we are holding the protest but in peace. I don't think anything has been reported, no violence has been reported today. That's good, that shows some better sense has prevailed over them, and a situation is being created for hearing of the matter properly by the Supreme Court of India. But as I said earlier also, the beauty of democracy is that you have a right to speak, you have the right to demonstrate, you have the right to dissent. But all these are with reasonable restrictions. Reasonable restrictions means you cannot invade. If you have a right, you cannot certainly invade into somebody else's right. Destruction of private property in the form of burning the houses, you are entering into somebody else's house and you are invading his or her private right. So you don't have a right over somebody else. You don't have a preference. You don't have a preference, or you don't have a choice to burn the buses, to burn the public property. As I said, it is made up of public money. Exchequer is being utilized. The money of taxpayer is being wasted in a developing country like us.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Chaudhary, then, say for instance at some level, there has been, a policeman or a security personnel who's erred and, who's made a mistake. What happens then?
See, let's get to the point that you made about seeking instructions on the phone. What should be done? No, it's never done. It's not supposed to be done. The man on the spot decides. Number two, the good thing is that technological aids have come. Video cameras are there. CCTV cameras are there. They'll bring up the evidence. And our visual media must play a more positive role. Instead of showing students with their backs, taking the stripping off, why didn't they focus when on the buses being burnt? And the police side, you see, they want to sensationalize. They want to make it more emotive. That's not. Media should more restraint, more tolerance, more balance. And you said taken to task will be after due course of inquiry, either judicial or non-judicial. If a person
because there has been a demand.
Guilty, yes. Without inquiry, you cannot punish a person. You cannot. You have to give him a right to defend himself with the help of evidence. There must be video grabs or whatever it is, everything. So, yes, if a policeman has exceeded knowingly, intentionally, with a motivation, certainly, he should be punished. But not before that.
I would like to add here something. You see, I'm constantly watching all this, what is happening around. I'm sorry to say, the media is not playing the correct role here today. What they are portraying is some bruises, some injury by students which has been suffered by them, and blowing it beyond proportion. Has any of the media channels shown the extent of damage? You know what a cost of a bus today is? 60 lakh rupees, which is the cluster buses. The low floor green bus costs even more, 1 crore of a rupee. Has any media channel been responsible enough to show that this is the extent of damage which the public property has suffered? Can you justify? None. I think nobody can justify such kind of destruction. This is only few of the instances which I am quoting. One bus here and there. But if you look at it in totality, you will find that crores of rupees have been gutted. It is nothing if somebody has... I don't say that police should be using excess force, and I don't justify that. But I am saying in proportion to that, if somebody has got some bruises or some small injury, that has to be looked into. But then also will have to be looked into as to who torched these buses and who...
Sure. Okay. Points taken. All right. And closing comment now from Sipal Singh with the best way forward.
No, the question is that I'll like to submit that again, what is enshrined in the Constitution is there is a freedom of speech, there is a freedom of expression, there is a freedom of demonstration. But the question is, where did it start from? You go back to the history. When Mahatma Gandhi used to indulge in satyagrahas, there were demonstrations, but the word used was satyagrah, truthful demonstration. The intent was truthful. Now you start with an intent which is not truthful. Your intention is not correct. Then what are you doing? You are definitely indulging in a mischief. And if you have started with a mischief, and then that mischief is taken to the culmination in the form of violence, there's no way out but for the police to react. Only question is that at the time of reaction, how far the police should go. At the time of controlling this violent mob, how far the police go. You cannot use the law of tort simply, all right, we feel like that, hence we impose this restriction. No, it is not like that, because you have to be very careful when you are using this. You have to be very careful to understand the mentality of the mob, the mentality of the demonstration. I'll tell you a very small instance. In my service career, once a crowd of the students became very agitated. They were almost pelting stones, etc. The policeman crowd was there, huge crowd. One of the very experienced police officers went there. They tried to stop, they won't stop. All of a sudden he thought of those days we had these mics and all for giving the warning to them. So on that mic, he thought of putting a song of some picture. And that song, when this put, the entire youth of that, the students, they started dancing. Hence their mentality, the mob mentality was broken just by one mob, this thing record.
Right.
My submission is to understand the mob mentality before you react. If you feel that they have been violent and policemen have been injured and they have thrown stone, policemen have been injured, hence the police should react violently.
Sure.
And
Okay.
they should try shooting. That is not done. That is not done.
Okay, all right. On that note, then we'll